Dick Cheney said this, in fact.
Yes.
Yeah,
So
there's a nuclear weapon about to go off, and the only way to get, actually he was talking about torture, I think. The only way to get to know how to defuse it is to torture this man. Wouldn't you torture this man?
Yes, torture is ineffective, has been shown.
Well, actually, I have another answer to that question.
Oh, you do?
That is a hypothetical situation Cheney set up. But I can point to you where torture actually caused the deaths of thousands of, played a key role, at a minimum, in thousands of deaths. And what was this? It related to, let me get this straight. Yes, it was the war in Iraq. Colin Powell and his chief of staff, Colonel Larry Wilkerson, were very suspicious of claims from the Bush administration prior to the invasion of Iraq in 2003 that there was any connection between Saddam Hussein and the terrorists who committed the September 11th attack. And yet the Bush administration was repeatedly linking them. And Larry Wilkerson, and I can get you the quote if you want it. I've transcribed it. I think it was in Taxi to the Dark Side, but I'd have to check. It was a documentary. Larry Wilkerson appears in it, and he says, first of all, he helped craft Colin Powell's speech to the UN with the simulated vial of anthrax, and he says, I participated in a hoax on the UN Security Council and the American people. How do you think that makes me feel, ending my career, a 30-year career in the Army, on that kind of note? But he also says that they were suspicious of this linkage until the Bush administration came to them with independent corroboration that Saddam Hussein was involved. How did they get it? By torturing al-Libi, one of the jihadists who was captured in Afghanistan. He was waterboarded in Egypt. And what Wilkerson says is he blurted out whatever he thought they wanted to hear. That's what people do under torture eventually. I mean, even John McCain, who was quite courageous, he said that you can't resist torture forever. Eventually you submit. And what they wanted to hear was that there was a connection between Saddam Hussein and September 11th. And so without telling Colin Powell or Wilkerson that that's where they got the information from through torture, they told them we have independent corroboration. And I think Colin Powell and Wilkerson, being good soldiers, were looking for an excuse to go along with their commander-in-chief, George W. Bush. And so that played a key role in the Iraq War, which resulted in thousands upon thousands of deaths. And even if you just count American deaths, it was non-trivial.
Oh, okay, but under torture, you'll admit to anything. But cracking a phone, I mean, there's either information there or there isn't. There won't be, okay, maybe planted false information that could be discovered by cracking a phone, but in general, there may be information in a phone.
Yes. So if there was a way, if there was a way to give the FBI and NSA and every other law enforcement agency in the world access to phones only when that was the case, and our phones were protected, I would wave the magic wand and make that happen. But it's like the Australian law. There's no way to do that without creating tremendous security vulnerabilities. And so we need to look at the trade-off. What do we get by giving the FBI this access? Do they have other ways of getting the information? And like we see with the San Bernardino phone, they do have other ways of getting the information.
Well, it wasn't the other way. It was cracked by the Israelis.
Yes, but Apple did not have to build. Oh, but there's a difference between the Israelis cracking it and building in a front door. By the way, it's called a back door, but I would argue it's a front door because everybody knows it's there. And the problem with exceptional access to an Apple phone is it's not going to just be the San Bernardino phone. It's going to be thousands a year, that maybe even thousands a month. And so Apple and other vendors would have to automate the process. And then there's the danger, if it can be automated, that it will be leaked, as happened with Eternal Blue. Eternal Blue was a zero-day exploit that NSA came up with, and they never actually used it, but it was leaked as part of the theft of malware from NSA, and it was part of the NotPetya attack that brought Maersk, the big Danish shipping giant, to its knees and caused, by U.S. White House estimates, $10 billion in damage.